videos, or you're trying to get ahead in business or in academia, being humble is not always easy. And we can justify not being humble because we want to get our point of view, which we feel is superior, across. And I'm no different. But also we can modify mechanisms to allow us to access our humility more. And by taking off the ratings on my YouTube videos, how many views, I hope to be able to do it. I'm going to keep the old ratings and I'm going to keep the 600,000 views I have already because I feel that will get me higher up in the search engine and more likely to reach you. But ultimately, I can't keep doing that. And if I want to be able to speak from the heart, we want to clear out our agendas as much as possible so that we can be present and we can be heart-centered and compassionate. Agendas tend to get in the way. So here we go. What is the most important outcome of school? Is it learning some facts? Because that's what it seems to be teaching, right? Memorize these facts. What if the most important outcome is not to be focusing on an outcome? It seems a little bit of a koan or paradox, and I could speak for probably a week about that one idea, but we're going to keep going. But I want you just to think about that maybe having a planned outcome or a design is not fruitful. And for those of you who are practical, pragmatic, you can certainly see that the outcomes that are designed by our schools today are not in sync with what students feel relevant or what actually is going to be relevant to their lives as adults. Okay, so rather than grades, schools can prioritize helping students feel confident and secure in the present moment, right? We're always trying to escape the present moment to have some bigger, better thing, or fearing some worse thing. So we can't be present. And when I was adding, the ratings to the numbers to my videos, in my mind was, to some extent, how to get those numbers. Now I've removed that from the table. And if you take grades out of school, you can give students a great ability to not have challenges to their confidence and not have them always focusing on what they did yesterday or what they're going to do tomorrow. You can say, well, getting good grades builds confidence, but then it's conditional. It's conditional on being able to spit back the material that has been taught to you or the skill that you were supposed to have learned. However, if a student learns to feel inner peace regardless of the demands, then that's a worthy outcome of school. So I have inner peace, at least I hope so, regardless of the demands placed upon me. Now, in my case, I put the demands on myself. In a child's case, in a student's case, the demands are put on by parents and peers and by teachers. So we're trying to cultivate inner peace outside of whether there are demands or no demands. The presumption often is that to get peace, we have to have no demands on us. But in fact, there can be demands. We could even acquiesce to those demands, but we can be at peace while doing so if we stay grounded in the present moment. So this is important because when we're given tasks or goals, whether those are from ourselves or other people, if they seem irrelevant or stupid or silly or even evil, right? If you're working for a company that's asking you to do things that are not right or impossible, if you are able to be confident and be present, you will be able to more effectively navigate that particular situation. And the fact of the matter is often there are going to be goals that we are required to acquiesce to in academia and in business. We don't think they're the right goals, but our boss or those in authority or our teacher says we must. So can we be at peace in the face of that? And as an adult, we're more able to find balance and wisdom in the face of adversity. So again, what if the most important outcome is to feel confident and secure in the present moment? Can we feel this inner peace regardless of the demands put upon us or goals we've been given by others or that we've set for ourselves? And even, again, if those goals seem wrong. School and work life often stress that some future goal, that if you achieve it, it'll make you look good and feel good, right? And it could be in the classroom or it could be with your peers by being a rebel or being more daring or getting good grades or whatever the authority in your life is, whether it's your peers, your teacher, your parents. So now I'm going to talk briefly, just a few slides, about ADD, ADHD, and specific language impairment and continuum concept of unschooling. If you are not particularly interested in those areas, just skip ahead a minute or so. You'll be fine. I'll wave my hand overhead so you'll see. Okay, so is it real? In other words, are these things real? ADD, ADHD, does my kid have it? So the first question I would say is, rather than getting into that debate, does sugar and video games create hyperactive behavior and inattention? Can you simply just cut those out? You need to replace it with something that is appealing to the student and the child. And that I can email you. I'll give you some ideas. Also, school is boring, and most adults wouldn't sit still for those lectures, so we're expecting the kids to do it. That's quite amazing. Lastly, parents who hire professionals, doctors, psychologists, speech-language pathologists in some cases, to treat ADHD may only hire them people who have the same expectations of how a child's supposed to behave. And they also feel that the onus, the responsibility is on the child to self-regulate and not a need for us to change society. So video games, violent television, sugar, a bunch of other things, the way classes are taught, I think we should look at those more than we look at the child's actual behavior. And I know this because I lived with a tribe and the children didn't have that behavior. They were living with nature in a more peaceful, integrated way. Anyway, if someone does poorly in class or on a test, or the teacher doesn't think well of them, then the student's going to either agree that they're inadequate, that they're a failure, that they're less than, and then become depressed and they quit trying, or they're going to seek to regain their self-esteem by stressing over the test, being the class clown, some acts of rebellion, drinking, drugs, sex, or escapism. So the other thing, so the caveat here is that it may be language, it may not be ADD or ADHD. Again, I think often it's the society or the sugar or the television or the video games. But if it's language, then we need to see the block. Now, 8% of people have specific language impairment. And so you have this scale called the Connors Parent Rating Scale. And if you don't take language and academic items out of that scale, then it's going to lead you to misdiagnose and assume a person has ADD and ADHD, and they get medicated, and that creates a whole host of problems. So lastly, and I'll move on, it's going to be a tautology. If a diagnosis comes, doesn't mean the child has ADHD, and you may take the diagnosis and be more likely to recall the behavior when you're surveyed, and it's possible children with ADHD, with the ADHD diagnosis, are filtering and they're seeing those issues, and there are other things. Okay, so more important than learning information the teacher teaches is having a love of learning, is being okay with vulnerability and confusion, is being able to deal with frustration, is being able to negotiate win-win scenarios, even within ourselves. Like, I'm rushing now, I want to get this all in, I have something I have to attend to, but I also want to spend time with you, and so we're creating an inner conflict, and then we can't give our all to our experience, and we can't be present. And so what often happens at school is not that you remember the facts, but that you have some level of insecurity. You're trying to show off your strengths to reduce that insecurity, to get the approval of your peers, your teacher, your parents. But then you grow up and you're going to be doing that as being boasting, which just shows people that you're insecure. Again, I could talk for a week about that particular issue, but I got to move on. So, exams, test anxiety. Tests and goals come from a fear-based assumption that students won't learn, and they won't grow unless you make him or her prove that they've learned or they've grown to you. And they're going to internalize this, and they're only going to learn information and participate in order to pass the test or get a good grade. So what I'm saying is the students should teach the teacher, and then the teacher takes the test. I have a whole paper on this. I haven't done a presentation about it yet. If you're interested, please email me. Maybe I will put a click here button. I was saying I wouldn't, but I think I'll put a click here button right there. Anyway, why is this important? Why should the teacher be taught, not the students? So we learn by teaching other people. We want students to take on responsibilities and care for others. We see information as how you can help others, not line your pockets, right? Because a lot of times we're looking for information in order to alleviate fear or to cause fear in the case of marketing. We have a greed aspect. We're linking money to knowledge. A lot of crazy things happen when information is used to advance your own power and your own ego. Because as we know, we're in the information age. So it's really important, in my opinion, feel free to disagree, information should be shared with others to empower others. And that you can have economic success. You can have economic success that way. But you're coming from a different place, one that's going to create peace and satisfaction, not never-ending greed and dissatisfaction and self-judgment. Okay, so the bigger issue is that But the bigger issue is that the onus is on where the onus is happening, right? Where we're placing the onus, so responsibility. So you look at insurance companies and IEPs and school boards; they're putting the onus, the responsibility, and they only deliver resources in order to maintain the status quo. That is what they want. That is why it's all about getting the child back in the curriculum. IEPs are based on their ability to adhere to the curriculum, and insurance companies have a certain expectation of what level of behavior and how quickly that behavior is going to improve, or the skills. Again, I can talk a week about that. Email me if you have questions. So we're not questioning how the way kids are taught, and I've already alluded to this. We have to question about how we're teaching kids. It shouldn't be boring. We should be questioning the whole notion of curriculum. We should consider child-led learning. The class clown should be the teacher, prepped by the teacher, but then the class clown delivers it. They know timing better. They know how to keep an audience engaged. Teachers are typically not having that skill. So I wrote a paper on that. Email me if you're interested in that. Testing teachers on the knowledge of pop culture's relevancy. Right, so the kids are going to teach the teacher about history, math, and science through pop culture, and the teacher then takes a test, statewide test, about that pop culture relating to history or science or math. The students have learned, and if the teacher does well, maybe there's some kind of a reward that everyone gets to share together. I don't know how you want to work it out. I'm just the idea guy. What am I talking about? So let me explain it, and I just kind of did. I got to keep moving on. Okay, one last thing I want to say. In our society, there's a lot of obsessive-compulsive disorder, and this can be masked, or it can be hidden, or people aren't aware they have it. Basically, it's a lack of flexibility or the ability to change. We see this all the time, and school is basically creating this. So you may need things to change, or you may need to stay the way they are, but you're not learning how to let things be. And we know the great spiritual teachings about impermanence and dissolution. Things all fall apart. We understand that. It's life and death, growth and rebirth, and death again. That's what nature teaches us, right? So language and science and math can be about that. And particularly if there's a child who's having OCD, or even a mild case of OCD, they're just not being flexible. They're so adhering to the rules. We can begin to introduce things that way. What's interesting is that you'll find individuals who are so interested in rules will go into institutions, and those institutions then promulgate, like that word, promulgate those rules to unwitting and unsuspecting students. So it's really a perseveration issue. I know that word is often used for more extreme behaviors, but that's what it is. And there's a desire to over-control. So what I would say is that when stress becomes too high, because those people who love rules made the rules and force students to obey the rules, and companies are the same way, lots of red tape, then we become weary of that perseveration. We get weary of the expectations others have on us. We become weary of being judged, and we can become weary of the imposed restrictions. Now, if you're a student or an adult, drugs, drinking, alcohol, sex, giving up, quitting, you may have some great gift to offer a particular field, but if it's asking too much of you, you're not going to do it. The people who are going to make it through, and this is very specific in speech-language pathology, the people who are going to make it through tend to be the people who like the rules, who want to follow the rules. It's not a field known for innovation. Neither is, I'm afraid to say, teaching. There are great teacher innovators, but most teachers, they are drawn to the profession, I would suggest, and they're getting the masters, because they like to follow the rules. But for the world coming, we need people who can break the rules, bend the rules, come up with new rules, evolve the rules. That's why all your wonderful internet entrepreneurs quit school, right? Because it's teaching them a way that's not helpful to actually how business is done in the cutting edge fields. So if we either want to find control or want to no longer need to control ourselves. So if we're in a situation where we're out of control, or we're feeling too many expectations, we're going to try to control the situation by buckling down on ourselves, right? Becoming way rigid. Or we want to no longer feel all that, so we're just going to lose control and we go wild. And you see that teenagers are making these decisions, even young children are making these decisions. It impacts the rest of their lives. You want to be flexible. Sometimes you want to exert control, take more control. Other times you want to remove that control. And a lot of it has to do with the system set up, like removing how many views I get on my YouTube videos allows me not to be as controlling. And as I said, rebellion, drinking, drugs, laziness, lethargy, escapism, the class clown is a bridge to all of that. And again, if you're interested, please contact me. I think that's my last slide. Oh, there's more. Oh, it's just about continuum. Right, I'll make this really quick because I got to go. Kids are biologically driven to mimic their parents' activities. That's why you're supposed to wear the baby as you go about your life, not keep them in a crib. One can spin this as an apprentice model. So you're directing a child, but the child chooses the apprentice. It can be someone other than the parents. Could be someone on the other side of the world. Unschooling, kid knows better what the future needs, particularly in technology and marketing. So they may explore areas that the teacher wouldn't even think to do. And the mentor, again, could be on the other side of the world. Or no mentor. Choose a direction yet to be explored by anyone. I think that's the last slide. Unschooling. The benefits. Leads to self-awareness, no fear of mistakes, more creative, helps in your adult life and as a senior citizen because you're flexible. You can solve your own problems. You find the win-win scenarios. You're not following orders and proving worth to others. Not everyone can do unschooling, but if we can bring these principles into our public schools, now I think that would be great. And hopefully you agree with me. And if you don't agree with me, that's fine too. I think that's the last slide. Well, just about awareness. I'm going to skip this for now. And then some scary stuff just about SLI. I'm not even going to read these out loud. If you're interested, you can pause the video. I mean, SLI is a serious thing. We want to really deal with it. Juvenile offenders often have language impairments, not only SLI. And it leads to having more friends and issues with bullying. The ability to understand is more of a pragmatic issue, but speech-language pathologists can work on that. And a lot of students, they pretend they don't care. They may retreat to video games. Again, you can pause these if it's interesting. Some studies, you can pause it if you're interested. I may do another video on this at another time. And helping kids just navigate how to talk with others using language. And particularly older kids. I think that's the other thing is schools are breaking up the grades by age. And in fact, older kids are a great inspiration and can be inspired by helping younger kids. And one just quick idea to my book, the kids make up a game. They use language and math to make up the game that older kids have to then play. So the younger kids feel empowered. They feel like they're in charge. And it gives them a great incentive to learn information. Okay, I got to go. I really hope you reach out to me, though. Thanks for listening.